We all like to think we're pretty rational, right? That we make smart, logical choices. But what if the decisions we make every single day, from what we buy to how honest we are secretly being guided by forces we don't even see?
For a long, long time, the entire field of economics was built on this one very tidy idea about human nature, that we're all perfectly logical. Yeah, they basically pictured us as these perfect little calculating machines. We always know what's best for us, and we always act on it. So what if that whole idea is just wrong? Let's dive into this, because a series of absolutely fascinating experiments from behavioral economist Dan Ariely tells a totally different and frankly a much more interesting story about how our minds really work.
All right, let's kick things off with a super weird quirk in our brains, a little thing known as anchoring.
So check this out. Researchers at MIT got a group of students together and had them do a couple of simple things. First, just write down the last 2 digits of their social security number. Then, they were asked if they'd pay that amount for things like a bottle of wine. Now, the crucial part here is that a social security number is completely random. It has absolutely nothing to do with the value of anything. And what they found was just wild. That totally random number had a huge effect on what people were willing to pay. Students whose last 2 digits were high, say 80 or 90, bid way more for the exact same items than students whose numbers were low. You see, our minds are wired to survive in a world filled with uncertainty, so they desperately search for a starting point, any starting point, even a totally useless one. That first number became an anchor that secretly pulled their perception of value in one direction. It just goes to show how powerful a first impression can be. So our brains can get stuck on random numbers. But that irrationality gets even crazier when we see one of the most powerful words in the entire human vocabulary: free. Okay, picture this. You get a choice: a fancy Lindt truffle for 15 cents or a regular old Hershey's Kiss for just 1 penny. Now, most people, about 73%, made the logical choice. They paid a little extra for a much better piece of chocolate. Makes sense, right?
But then, watch what happened when they dropped the price of both by just 1 cent. The truffle is now 14 cents, and the kiss is free. And boom, everything flipped. People abandoned the better deal in droves. An overwhelming majority suddenly wanted the free but inferior Hershey's Kiss. That word free is like a magic button in our brains that short-circuits rational thought. And this kind of weird thinking isn't just about money or candy. Turns out it seeps into our moral compass too.
Look at this number. That's the total cost of all robberies in the US in 1 year. It's a massive figure. But here's the kicker. It's probably nothing compared to the cost of millions and millions of tiny little dishonest acts committed every single day by otherwise good, honest people like you and me. So to test this, they set up an experiment with math puzzles. The control group, with no chance to cheat, solved about 3 problems. But when another group was given the chance to shred their answers and just tell the researchers how many they got right, they claimed they solved about 5.5. So yeah, they cheated. But here's the really interesting part. They only cheated by a little bit. And that's the key takeaway here. It's not that we're all out to be master criminals. It's that most of us have this built-in fudge factor. We'll cheat just enough to get a small benefit, but not so much that we have to feel bad about ourselves. And get this, just asking people to think about an honor code for a second before the test was enough to make that cheating completely vanish. So after all this, what are we supposed to think? Are our brains just broken? Well, no, not at all. Here's the really good news. Our irrational behavior isn't just random chaos, it's systematic. We all tend to make the same kinds of mistakes over and over again. And because our irrationality is systematic, that means it's also predictable. And if you can predict it, you can do something about it. And this is why this all matters so much. This isn't about feeling bad about our mental glitches. It's about empowerment. Now that you know about anchors, you can stop and ask yourself, is that first price I saw actually relevant? When you see something for free, you can check if it's making you choose a worse option. And by knowing your own fudge factor, you can set up little reminders to stay true to your own values. When you really think about it, these quirks aren't flaws. They're features. They are the ancient echoes of a Stone Age mind built for survival that's now trying to navigate a crazy, modern digital world. By understanding these deep patterns, we can finally start to design systems, products, and a world that are better suited to how we human beings actually are, not just how we think we should be.